Hey, it's Kenny from Broad Street. Let's talk about the 5 ways that most digital publishers make their money. So at Broad Street, we work with hundreds of hyperlocal news, city and regional magazines, trade and industry publications, and some other niche media. We find out that there's a model that works generally for these types of publishers. The first is online display advertising. It is easy to execute and the income is reasonably high. So traditional display advertising, meaning banner ads in one form or another, still generate most of the income for a publisher. And a lot of times if you can do something different in terms of display, so not just run standard image ads, if you can incorporate video or some sponsored content links in there, you can do something creative with your display advertising, something that animates. It is going to sell a little bit better, but it's also going to form the majority of your online revenue. Secondly, most publishers have started to run sponsored content. So for an advertiser, they'll write some content about that advertiser. It's a paid post essentially, and more publishers have become okay with the idea of doing this. Years ago, it wasn't something that most publishers wanted to do, but it's become more common recently. So single post for $500, 3 posts for $1,000, whatever that revenue model is, a lot of publishers are starting to say, hey, a substantial part of my income is now coming from sponsored content sales. Third, newsletter sales. Some publishers find out that their newsletter is actually more valuable than their website. So the advertisers are really interested in buying up space in their newsletter because, especially if they're coming from a background where they're used to advertising in print, the newsletter just feels more tangible. They love that it's showing up in people's inboxes, it's there. So the newsletter can be a great medium for digital advertising, and a lot of our publishers leverage that. Reader revenue. So in the last couple of years, especially with COVID, there has been an outpouring of support for online publishers, especially local publishers. More people have decided to say that I am going to support this local publication for $5 a month, $7 a month, $10 a month, again, whatever that rate is. So reader revenue is becoming a bigger and bigger proportion of digital revenue. Lastly, programmatic advertising. So programmatic or network ads that appear on your site, they're not known for delivering a whole lot of revenue for niche publishers. And that's primarily because the traffic that a niche publisher has, if you're covering a small town or a small industry, there's only so much traffic you're going to get. You're never going to get millions of page views in most cases. Programmatic revenue will never quite pay the bills, but it is a nice baseline of revenue that you don't really have to work too hard for. So those are the 5 big ways that most publishers make their money. So web advertising, sponsored content sales, newsletter advertising, reader revenue, and programmatic.